President Buhari has approved the reduction in the pump price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol. He gave the approval after a cabinet meeting, which was a cabinet meeting presentation by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timipre Silva. The price reduction comes amidst the slump in the global price of crude, largely impacted by the coronavirus. Price of crude has continued to drop from $60 to below $30 a barrel. The government says it will now allow the price of crude to determine the price of the PMS product in Nigeria, effectively deregulating prices.
As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, you are all aware that oil prices have drastically dropped. And we know that this really will translate to a lot of sufferings on the part of Nigerians. Therefore, the President has graciously approved that the pump price of petrol should also accordingly drop. So the pump price of petrol will be from now $125 for now. If there is any further drop, it will even drop further. 125 naira per liter will be the pump price of petrol for the time being.
All right, so we have the Senior Associate Financial Advisory with ARM, Mr. Kayode Omosebi. He joins me now in the studio to reflect on these developments. Kayode, you're welcome. Thank you for coming to the Global Business Report on Arise News. So we just heard from the Minister of State for Petroleum, Minister Silva there. But I want to read a paragraph to you from one of the newspaper dailies that came out this morning, right? It says, Nigeria's government Wednesday cut the price of premium motor spirits to 125 naira from the current 145, but fuel dealers and oil marketing firms are unsure if this signals a pathway to the much-desired deregulation of the country's downstream sector. Now, looking at one of the statements from the PPRA, which they released a statement here, they said, I think it was point 6, said going forward, PPRA will continue to monitor trends in marketing fundamentals and announce a monthly guide, which is supposed to guide the expected open market price. Why is it that the language seems pretty straightforward that this is a deregulation. So why is there still some uncertainty in the marketplace with regards to?
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's not a deregulation because a deregulation says that all the components or variables that determine the price are free market. So free market is the sense that if I'm a downstream marketer today and I want to buy dollars to buy crude oil, the exchange rates that I'm going to buy the dollars from at the free market should reflect in my pricing. So if I have to still wait to get dollar at 307, because if you look at the template, it's 307. Who sells dollar at 307 is only the federal government or the CBN. So you still have to wait because even if you could get the crude oil at 25 or 30, then there's still rationing in terms of the dollar because the free market is not selling dollar at 307. So assuming I want to wake up to buy dollar today from a BDC, it's 380. So if I have to buy dollar at 380 and I have to go import crude oil, I can't sell for 125. So what it still means is that while you're still trying to play that free market, the variables that determine 125, there's still one that is still missing, which is the FX. So as long as that is there, then you have to have supply issues because then it's not really deregulation, it's just an under-recovery. Because if the CBN, if the federal government sells that dollar to you at 307, then somebody is taking a loss or somebody is subsidizing via FX. So that's where the problem is. So it's not deregulation in the real sense of it.
So you're essentially saying, but okay, so what about the angle of the fact that crude oil prices are now down, and they were using in the statement that they sent out. Yeah. They were looking at the expected open market price 175 or so in January, about 156. Now it's below 145 now, I believe. They're updating their template. Doesn't that play into this price coming down, or you're still saying that FX is the determinant?
Yeah, FX would be the big determinant because that's the problem an importer will face. It needs to get the dollar. So who is selling the dollar is the CBN. And the CBN has said it's only 307 I'll sell. For me to be able to sell at 125, I need to get that dollar at 307. And then I still have to go and queue up or pie up with the CBN. And what the federal government has done is, what they do is a direct sales, direct purchase. So somebody takes crude oil and brings in petrol. However, there's a loss that is taken on that revenue because the exchange has been used at 307. So it doesn't place, it's still not a free market because the free market will be anybody who has a license to import, then can buy dollar from anyone else. So the question is, crude oil is only the factor that has been changed to reflect market dynamics. but there are still other factors that have not been changed to reflect market dynamics. So you ask yourself, if there's a devaluation, then what's going to happen? Because regulation seems easy when you have lower crude oil prices and everything looks fine. So if crude oil prices go back to 50, or if you have to devalue to 350, are you going to take that hit to say, okay, we're taking prices to 200 or to 180? Or if I'm a downstream player today and I want to buy FX at 380, and I still want to buy, crude oil at 25, then that's a problem. Because if you look at the modulation, the degree of increase in price or fuel price is more significant on the FX than on the crude oil. If you lose crude oil by, let's say, $10, probably you have maybe 5 naira decline or 10 naira decline in crude oil in fuel price. But if FX moves by about 20% or 10%, you actually have a faster decline. The last time we had that crude oil impact, in 2016, crude oil was low, but they had to move fuel price to 145 because of the FX, because they moved FX from 200 to 295.
Right.
So FX is actually the major impact in a country like this because we're still importing fuel. So on that basis, then it's not deregulation.
Okay, so if that's the case, so it's either now a case of the refineries now or a devaluation. That's the only way that this can become price reflective.
Price reflective, exactly.
Okay, well then now we're going back to the the topic of deregulation. As far as it's topic of devaluation. The central bank's language has said that is not something that they believe is going to happen this year. So so things essentially have to stay where they are, which means that the NNPC continues to remain the sole importer of the product?
Yes.
Okay, so now so that means that the marketers then, based on your explanation, the marketers do have a good reason to be skeptical as far as this is concerned.
Yeah, because they still have to go queue up for dollar from the CBN.
At the window.
Yeah, at the window. They can't still buy dollar at the free market to sell at 125. So they still have to go queue up for dollar at the window or wait for the guys who have the contract to bring in fuel.
Which is still the NNPC.
Which is still the NNPC. So it's an under recovery via the exchange rate. That's why it's price modulation and not regulation. The regulation will just say the price is reflective of market conditions. Let's look at electricity prices. So I say inflation 12.2. I look at exchange rate 380. And I put all those factors and I say, what is electricity price? I see if it comes at, let's say, 25 kilowatts. But if you put that on FX and I say on fuel price and I say $380, I buy at $380, I buy at $25 per barrel for crude oil, will I still be able to sell at 125? That's not it. So that's not market reflective. So there's still a bottleneck on the supply chain that still does not make it a deregulation.
We really need to have you back here to as this matter unfolds. So within this short term now, essentially just about 60 seconds left or so, things are still where they are. I mean, what moves next? I mean, you and I, the end users, we will see, boost in disposable income, less price at the pump. But as far as the supply coming in and the players are concerned, nothing moves until the exchange rate moves. Yeah,
nothing moves on the exchange rate moves because the sole buyer will still largely remain the NNPC or those who have access to $307 by $307 per dollar at the CBN window.
Kayode Omosebi, Senior Associate, ARM. Thank you so much for your insight with regards to FX being the major input here with regards to the fuel price. Thank you so much for joining us on the Global Business Report.